I introduce choreography into the classical dance at all? My first answer, and I take Kathak as an example because I worked only in the field of Kathak, is that we are living in a very different kind of world today from when Kathak first took shape, and needs of our present society are ever changing. There's a whole new generation of Indians who belong to an international and cosmopolitan community. The world is closing in on us, so to speak. And just as people from different cultures and religions are interrelating through technology, migration, high-tech communication, dance also wants to be involved in this process. We are no longer living in temples and courts. Hence, we must make a great leap into the international arena of dance. But beyond this need to expand and explore the world, dance needs to be able to express one's personal emotions and thoughts. Every artist has to have an intimate relationship with the art form that he or she practices. With reference to my own example, it became difficult for me at a point to build that relationship to Kathak as a solo dancer, because I could not relate to the values, thought processes, and attitudes of my gurus, despite the fact that I felt a great reverence and respect for them. Naturally, this created some inner turbulence for which I had to find a balance between my sentiments for my gurus and my own longings to do something of my own. I wasn't quite sure how this energy that I felt stirring inside me would take shape. Most of our classical dance forms have been choreographed at some time by the great masters and are passed on to the next generation in that form, hence creating tradition. Choreography, as understood today, requires the dance to be put into a different kind of space. This requires a new approach of the known structures to suit new concepts. It is simply safe to keep looking over your shoulder for material from the past rather than facing the vast open plain before you. We must come out of this safe corner and have the courage to confront this thing which we call creation. However, choreography can only come after a base is built within you. First and foremost, you must master the form and technique and have a strong command over it. Beyond this, you must have motivation, a need to create, then a concept of design for a theme. It must have dynamics. By dynamics, I mean the forms or the technique we use. Then the work must contain a rhythm. By rhythm, we don't mean tala or laya. The rhythm of the universe, the rhythm of life. And most importantly, the work must contain a complete vision, a beginning, a middle, and an end. The audience shouldn't have to wait for the end. For me, this exercise was traumatic in the beginning. We talk about dreams coming true, but with me, they were not dreams, they were nightmares. Fortunately for me, these nightmares took the form of imagination, leading to creativity. Once I overcame this initial fear, I soon found that I enjoyed the process as much as the outcome. I discovered a whole world of movement from within and in the space outside. How do new patterns emerge? I believe that an energy within you sprouts into a new form that takes a variety of shapes, shades. One single image leads to a whole new pattern of movement. While choosing a theme, most choreographers draw stories from mythology. Presentations based on these stories are easiest to sell to the audiences because they are familiar with these themes. The end result is a popular and accepted program. But choreography is not about acceptability. It is about unique, individual expression. The main concern is to stretch the viewer's mind to create a vision that provokes thought. It is from the depth of tensions and sorrows that the urgency to face life with a new fervor emerges. There is no opportunity for a formal training in choreography in this country. Most choreographers of today are working out of compulsion for looking at their dance styles in a new light. Solo dancers in this country who have been on the stage for 30 or more years have borne the brunt of substandard stages, bad lighting, poor quality of sound systems, and also many a times audiences which did not have their priorities right in their appreciation of the dance. I was one of the victims, so I began to wonder why I should dance at all. Solo dance in Kathak did not excite me anymore because it had developed too much of gimmickry to it. I was deeply rooted in dance though, and the technique of Kathak itself was very artistic and very complete. The way it was presented, which needed a lot of consideration. A performance needs to embody a certain dignity and finesse. This was my very first commitment to the presentation of Kathak. In my vision, I saw the entire stage filled with dancers, patterns of colors, music which had musicality and not just accompanying elements. To work in the field of choreography is not possible. One needs trained dancers who share your ideas. Working with other dancers is much like living under one roof with a family. The equations, the space factor, vibrations, relationships must be taken into serious consideration. You are no longer performing solo. You belong to a much larger image where dance gives shape to ideas, where one grows as a human being through creativity. Very often I've heard in the Western world that the Indian dance carries its past, which is no longer relevant, into the present. One cannot evaluate the Indian classical dance through Western eyes. Our traditions and techniques are too deep-rooted to be ignored. I have to admit here that I personally depend on Kathak technique for my creative work. Luckily, I'm ever discovering new movements in Kathak format which have for long been forgotten by solo dancers in their impulse to gain instant popularity. They have concentrated only on what brings an instant response from the audiences. To this day, I have not had to look outside the Kathak technique for movements and forms. I will now share some of my own personal experiences in choreography. My first attempt at choreography was Dhapkar, which means the pulse. Sitting on the floor of an empty room, one is contemplating and searching for a choice of a theme. I'm listening for sound and a beat to help me, and that comes from my own heart, which is beating heavily. But the pulse is calm and more assuring. I want to search for the pulse of the Kathak dance. This gave rise to Dhabkar, the pulse, wherein the Kathak form pulsates in its various tempos of rhythm. This Dhabkar was produced first in 1973. I also experimented with the extension of movements in this piece. One single movement passed from one dancer to another gives the impression of a single movement in an extended form. At times I did the opposite and broke the pattern of movements into little fragments, each performed by a different dancer. The result was quite thrilling. Success provides an incentive to carry further your belief. The music of Dhabkar was also quite unique in the sense that it played with the notion of speed and time. When the music was at a fast tempo, the dancer did opposite and vice versa. The experimentation in Dhabkar was quite new at the time when it was first performed.